Okay, so this is going to be kind of a strange one for me, but I can't let this one go. Apparently some guy with a Hyundai Ioniq 5, which I believe has CCS charging adapters on it, is unable to go from Waco to Ennis, Texas, because the EA charger in Waco is reportedly down. I'm starting out from Lago Vista, but, I don't know. To be completely transparent, I guess, I do have a Tesla. So I use NAC standard, not CCS or CCS1. But, I do have a thought of getting a second car that would be CCS or CCS1 in the US. And so it's kind of concerning to go like, well, wait a minute, what do you mean you can't travel from Waco to Ennis? So since Waco's only 100 miles from here, I'll drive up there and take a look. And as I go along, I'll report to you what's going on. Anyway, see you in a bit. Bye. Okay, guys, here I am, Ray with Opot Ray. I'm at the Collins Street Bakery in Waco. I have 39% state of charge. So far, my trip to this round trip was 108 miles so far, 31 kilowatts used, an average energy of 282 watt hours per mile. Wow, I've been flying too. Anyway, there we are. I'm about to plug in. So this is a version 3. It shouldn't take too long, but I'll top off to 80. Talk to you later. Bye. So one of the purposes of this trip was to go see what happened with the Waco EA station. So I got up there, found out they're constructing. So they had everything torn out. They had boxes set aside, ready to install, but not there yet. So if you were counting on Electrify America being open in Waco, at that time, there's no way. The good news is they have Sinsto opened. So it is there, and they have six posts. So it's even a decent-sized EA station. So I did take a couple pictures of it torn apart, basically. But one of it being torn apart, and the other one of the boxes that the chargers were in. So if I remember my charger manufacturers correctly, this is one of the good ones. And so hopefully it all works out. Okay guys, this is Ray with Opot Ray over at the Ennis Electrify America. Wow, guess what? They're servicing this location. So if you bypassed Waco, you came to here, you're kind of stuck. So that's not so great. The good news is I came across a guy who's driving a brand new Mercedes, and it's like, they didn't know it was going to be down, but it is. But he talked to the service guys, and they said it's going to be back up in about 2 hours. Not too bad. So, I mean, it's not great, but at least it's here. Or it will be. And they got new chargers in, so that's the good news. Okay, so here I am at the NACS at the Buc-ee's in Ennis. There you go. It was 180 miles to here, 51 kilowatt hours used, with an average of 283 watt hours per mile. So yeah, for a Tesla, absolutely no problem. Anyway, onward, upward charge. Okay, so here I am at the Buc-ee's in Ennis. We have a supercharger set up. I'm almost back up to 75%. I just looked it up. So let's see. To get to Electrify America down in Round Rock, that's 152 miles. So, wow. Trips. So I've covered 180 miles from home to here. I've used 51 kilowatts so far, averaging 283 watt hours per mile. Now, I'll grant you that the Electrify America here in Ennis was undergoing service. They have new chargers, but it's going under service. A guy there with a brand new Mercedes was stuck, he was telling me that they told him it'd take about 2 hours to get that all resolved. Yeah, it looks like they're busy adjusting some stuff inside the cabinets. So maybe so. But given that, it's 137 miles from here. So there's like a mile and a half difference between the NAC station and the Electrify America station at Walmart. So we're right next to each other practically. It's right on I-45. I have a hard time understanding why you could not make it from Round Rock to Ennis. And granted, if you made it to Ennis, I mean, that poor guy, he's stuck for a couple hours, but it's just a couple hours, right? So I don't know. It seems very reasonable that any car that can make 200 miles would be able to make the trip. So I'm missing some part of this equation there. Of course, I have the perspective of a Tesla. Granted, I've never tried to push it up to 300 miles. When I charge up to 80%. That indicates I have like 240 miles, which means I could probably push it to 300 miles on a good day if I charged to 100%. So anyway, there you go. There's where I'm at. As soon as I unplug, I'll be heading towards home again, chickadee chog, and we'll be there soon. Or, well, a couple hours anyway. Talk to you all later. Bye. Okay, so here we are at the Electrify America outlet charging station at Round Rock Outlets. I've covered 158 miles, used 46 kilowatts. That's not that much, is it? And 288 watt hours per mile. So, at least in a Tesla, I'm very qualified, mile 3, long range, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I can go from the Round Rock Outlets to Ennis. So it seems like I thought a 995 should be able to cover 158 miles, but what do I know? There you are. Okay, here we are home again. So my trip from home out to Ennis and back, 367 miles, 103 kilowatt hours. My average energy was 281 watt hours per mile. So yeah, I had 2 supercharger stops, and now I'm at home, so I'm about to plug in from the wall charger. Okay guys, as a kicker on this, I didn't even think about it till I watched some videos today. So last night I stopped at Walmart over at Parma Lane in Cedar Park to pick up some groceries. So it's 21 miles from my house. Took me 38 minutes to drive that. But notice the average energy? The average energy is 213 watt hours per mile. Okay, so to be fair, with my range, my state of charge dipping below 10%, and it said I would arrive with like 4%, ended up arriving with 3%, I think it was. I was going like, I can't go very fast. So yes, I went the speed limit, yes, absolutely, but I didn't do any hard accelerations or even spirited acceleration, if you call it that. And there you go. I got 213 watt hours per mile, which is better than 4 miles per hour. And some of those sections are at 55 miles an hour on a 4-lane highway with some rolling hills. So yeah, Cedar Park's Log Vista, right? Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there as a little reminder what slightly more conservative driving, what that can do for you, as opposed to my overall average lifetime of 273 watt hours per mile, which is still almost 4 miles per kilowatt. Anyway, onward. Okay, so I'm trying to wrap up this video without being too preachy, because everyone has a right to make decisions based upon the values they have and the knowledge they have. So I don't want to tell you I'm right and you're wrong. That's not my point. But it's going to be hard to not sound like that. But at least this person who's complaining that he couldn't get from wherever he was going to Waco, then going to Ennis. I get it. And I'm kind of surprised because he says he has a Hyundai Ioniq 5. So I'm kind of like, but you should have well over 250 miles range. And I was able to go from Ennis to my home, going past the Round Rock outlets. So I'm having a hard time fully understanding why he couldn't make it. Now, knowing what I know now, if you're doing 85 on I-35, you're chewing through energy much faster than if you go 70 on I-35. There's a fairly substantial margin there. So let's start from that point maybe. I mean, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is about what I actually experienced, so I was able to do it. Let me get on my high horse, so to speak. The reason I bought a Tesla, although yes, I tried to buy, so the Hyundai Ioniq 5 has a sister called the Kia EV6. There's a difference in styling. I like the EV6 styling much better. It's racier looking, so to speak. It looks more like a race car. The Ioniq 5 looks more like a family car, to me anyway. And neither way is right. It depends upon how you see it and what you want. So when I was looking to buy an EV, the first car I put an order on was the Tesla. Of course, at the time, they had long wait times. Well, that's not so fun. So I also put a reservation in on a VW ID4. For the reason Volkswagen had a few problems, including having a ship full of cars sink in the ocean. So they've had a lot of holdups. I kind of feel sorry for them. And if they came up with that ID4, I think I would be driving it, and I think I would be more or less happy with it. I mean, is it as good as a Tesla? No. But it's far cheaper. And it gets close to the same mileage. It's not quite as efficient, but it's right there. And I think I could learn to live with it. The other car I did look at was a Kia EV6. Now, at the time I was looking at it, this is during the time when the dealers were marking them up. So as soon as the dealer said, and there'll be an extra $10,000, or actually he gave me the price, which was $10,000 over sticker. And I said, what? And he said, oh yeah, we marked it up 10,000. Like, if you said that up front, I would never come in here. So I walked out. Fortunately for me, Tesla got Giga Texas up and running and got to the point where they're producing Model Ys, and that's where my Model Y came from. Okay, so why a Tesla Model Y? First of all, I believe it's probably the highest quality EV you can buy. Now, some of that is personal opinion, and I'm not going to say if you said some other car is a better, higher quality, I won't argue with you, because part of it's just opinion. But I feel like a lot of the mechanical pieces, the efficiency of the motors, the efficiency of the batteries, and not that this directly impacts it, but this having cylindrical batteries instead of pouch cells is a safer choice from my perspective. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who would exactly disagree with that. But that's neither here nor there. It's my choice. So those are the things about Tesla. The other thing, of course, and if you know anything about Tesla, you've heard this several times, I'm sure, Tesla superchargers. the Tesla superchargers, because they use the NACS standard as it is now, which used to be proprietary Tesla. Of course, you could, if you're a manufacturer, you could have made a deal with Tesla. You share your patents, and Tesla shares their patents, and so there's a sharing. If you're a traditional homemaker, I get why you don't want to share, because you depend upon those patents to protect your brand. So I get it. But that's all said. When I was looking through this, one of the questions that came up was like, sure, you can plan it. When I actually saw what it took to plan it, what it took to do it, it started becoming like, oh, I can do that. And so that's where I'm at. That's the final leap I took. Okay, so quality of the car, the supercharger network, and if you're watching this video, this all started out with a person who's using Electrify America, saying he could not drive an electric car because Electrify America station in Waco was down. That's where we started with this whole thing. Superchargers, yes. I've come across a supercharger post that was missing the DC fast pins. Okay, there was like 6 or 8 other chargers there, so I was able to move to another one. And I assume when Tesla sends out a service person, that they'll resolve that. They'll either replace the handle, or they'll put new pins in, whatever it takes to make that work. And hopefully they do that without taking down the whole site. But whatever, that's where it is. Okay. The other part to think about when you're getting into this is, am I at the limit of my range? So when people ask me, so officially the EPA says I should get 330 miles out of the car. I've never seen anything close to that. I don't know how you possibly can. Maybe if you drove at 45 miles an hour, and I've done a 30 mile per hour test, and that was okay. So I misspoke. The only time I saw anything up in that range, and I think it was 350, was I did a 30 mile per hour range test. Was it accurate? Was it perfect? No, it wasn't. But it gave an idea. And where this is leading me to is, watch your speed. If you're at the limits of how far you can go slower. And I've done that several times lately, where I see so the Tesla gives me an estimated percentage that I'm going to arrive at the next charging site, what my percentage will be when I get there. So when I see that I started out with a certain number, and that number is dropping, that indicates I'm using more energy than the Tesla estimated I would use. And as I start getting closer and closer to zero, that's an indication I got a problem. Now, have I arrived at home with 0%? Yes, I have. Not the end of the world. There is a certain amount of buffer in there. Not really a big deal, but you can do it. So, and the other follow-up is I have traded some notes with Electrify America, asked them some questions, made some suggestions. I don't know what they can do about it, but I'm just stuck thinking, how can I bypass that charging stop in my car? Granted, I had to be mindful of my speed, but I wasn't really restrictive. I was on I-35. Traffic flows at about 80 miles an hour, more or less. where I could, yeah, I slowed down to the speed limit, 75. But come on. So I didn't have that kind of problem. So I don't want to say anything to this guy who had a problem. To me, it sounds a lot like, hey, I'm calling up somebody who likes to complain about something. And to be fair, I don't think the guy who he's talking to. I mean, there's times when he'll blast EA, and I get it. But if you don't want to deal with this drama, and this is where I get on my high horse, if you don't want to deal with the drama of, well, is Electrify America, is it going to be up? Oh, what if I get a shared station and I get downgraded on how many kilowatts I pull? Those kind of questions that you get from people all the time who bought a car that has a CCS1 adapter. You know, I feel for them to some extent. You made a choice, and you should stick with your choice. The other side of the coin is, I made a choice. Of course, my choice is a lot easier to stick with, but I made a choice based upon knowing or having an idea of these factors going in. So, if you don't want the drama, if you want more reliability, if, like me, you want things to be somewhat boring, think about, can you go to having a Tesla? That's not to say that the other cars are bad. It's just to say it's a little less dramatic. But to each his own. Everybody has to make their choice based upon their values and their judgments. Okay. All I really ask of you all is to think through what it is you're doing before you do it. Good luck, and I hope to see all of you out there in some kind of EV. Bye.